Today we're going to be talking about something big that's going on in the world that a lot of us are seeing in headlines, but probably because of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, we've become desensitized to some of the massive things happening. I read recently in a news headline that the World Economic Forum were gathering to talk about a one world government, one world united group. Often there's heaps of people talking about this across different YouTube channels, prominent people, very wealthy people are talking about how, for example, when people become very wealthy, they might begin their careers, seeking to become a millionaire, and then the next step is they try to build a company bigger and bigger and bigger. They might enter that billionaire phase. They become very good at what they do, but then eventually they get to a point where it's less about getting more money and it's more about getting power, getting more authority, getting more leverage to be able to manipulate people to do their bidding. And of course, there are people that care less about that. They're more kind of into helping people, and so they become the kinds of people that are known for helping others. But then there's also the people behind the scenes that are very wealthy, but they're hungry for power, and so these people have the money in their pockets to pull the strings behind the scenes. This sounds very conspiratorial, but I think what we've seen in the last few years is conspiracies absolutely happen. People conspire. People, even from when you're a kid, kids conspire to try to achieve things, and people with a lot of money can conspire on a whole nother level. And what we read about when we open the pages of the Bible is at some point in the future, there's going to be a time in Revelation, it talks about where there will be a one world leader that arises. There will be authority granted to this person to for a time, the Bible talks about 42 months, have great power and great authority to unleash great devastation on the earth. And what we're seeing is kind of a theme happening where things are moving in that direction. And if you read Revelation 13, it talks about like there's a lot of imagery. So there's this dragon. It talks about a dragon. It talks about a beast. And it says, "Who is this beast?" This is in Revelation 13, verse 4. It says, "They worship the dragon who gave authority to the beast." Now, the Bible tells us who this dragon is. The dragon is Satan. The dragon is Lucifer. The dragon is this angelic being, a cherubim being who fell, who rebelled against God, and is a principality, is a ruling force in a spiritual dimension that we're all a part of, but we all don't see. And so he is this angelic, powerful being, and this Satan gives authority to a beast, who is and it says here, "Who is the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy. And he was given authority to continue for 42 months. So this is authority that's coming from Satan. What does the Bible say about Satan? The Bible says that Satan is the prince of the power of the air. It says that he is the god of this age, little g God. Obviously, Jehovah, Yahweh, is the great God who created all things, including the dragon, including Satan. Through Jesus and by Jesus, all things were made, things in heaven, things on earth. Principalities, powers, all of the spiritual dimension was also created by God. But in a sense, Satan has been given some kind of authority as a little g God, and he is the prince of the power of the air, and he gives authority in turn to whoever this beast will be. So, and it says it will continue for 42 months, and then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, to blaspheme his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. So, this is war. There is a war going on spiritually, but this spiritual war becomes physical. So, there's a time where there will be a being that comes to earth who is really a vessel that speaks, and it says it's granted to him to make war with the saints. So these are Christians, all right? there will be a time where this beast is given authority by Satan to make war over the saints and to overcome them. And this is what I want to talk about during this video, is the coming period of time where there will be great persecution. And what we've read about when you read the book of Acts, when you read the early church through the New Testament, they suffered great persecution in the beginning. And there is going to be great persecution towards the end, such that we've never seen before. And Jesus said, if he doesn't cut the time short, no one would survive. But there is going to be a time of persecution, and we hate talking about it. And I think in the last couple of years, we saw a very mild version of persecution for those that, it wasn't necessarily to do with directly Christians, but we saw with the vaccinations how very quickly our lives can turn upside down. We lose the rights we thought we had. People lose their rights to buy, to go out and have a meal, to go out and see a movie, to go out and hang out with other people. That was a very mild form of it, but we're going to see a really, really big form of it in the future. And it says that authority was given to him over every tribe, tongue, and every nation. This is a leader, this is a beast who has authority over every tribe. Okay, this isn't just, what is a tribe? A tribe's like a little town, a little village, a little group of people. Every tribe, and tribes can be bigger, of course, but every tongue and every nation. He's going to have a lot of authority, a lot of power to do his bidding. And we can see with technology that the technologies coming down the chain are incredibly powerful to consolidate control. From electric vehicles, to be able to automate and control them automatically, remotely, to artificial intelligence, people relying on it and using it more, both as a source of truth, so people relying on it more as a source of truth because it's incredibly powerful and incredibly accurate in many cases. But as time's coming on, there's advancements in robotics, where from a very centralized source, without the need of having to win people over necessarily, very quickly we could see great control and great centralized authority, such that would be very difficult to contend with. And that's coming down the line. But it says that all who dwell on the earth will worship him. Now, that doesn't mean every single individual will worship him. Of course, people will reject him and say no. And the Bible talks about that as well. But it's saying basically when it says all here, it's talking about the majority of the world. All kinds of people from all over the world will begin to worship him, the beast. They're going to worship the beast. And it says that those who do are those whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain before the foundation of the world. And then it says, if anyone has an ear, let him hear. Now that is a very important thing, because what they're saying is pay close attention, open your ears up, both spiritually, physically, everything. Pay attention to this. Do not worship this beast. Do not worship this one who will come, who has authority over every tribe and over every tongue and over every nation, and who conquers the believers, the saints. Say no. Prepare yourself spiritually to say no. And the way that we do that is we have to spend time with God. We have to pray. We have to develop a strong, intimate, personal relationship with God. And then it goes on to say, he who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So, okay, so I'm just going to pause there. That's Revelation 13, and there's so much in that, but I guess I read that to draw attention to the fact that there is a coming world leader, a person who is the leader. And what we're seeing develop geopolitically is nations are gathering to form a one world nation, a one world government. And that's literally the title of some of these meetings from the wealthiest people in the world. And we're seeing the stage set up very quickly. And we just need to be ready, because the Bible tells us this thing, so we can be ready. And many people believe that, there are many beliefs about how things are going to unfold in the end. There are different beliefs about this tribulation period the Bible talks about. First shared with us through Daniel, through the book of Daniel, where an angel appeared to him and gave a prophecy about the first coming of Jesus. The prophecy told us that from the going forth of a command to rebuild and restore Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, it talks about 69 sevens, or 70 years, or heptads, I should say. But I'm not going to go into the details of that prophecy right now. But essentially, the prophecy said from a time when a command is given to rebuild and restore Jerusalem until the Messiah comes, there will be exactly 173,880 days. And we saw that prophecy come to pass exactly the way that it was predicted. But then it talks about a future event that happens, a 7-year period, a tribulation period, which we haven't seen happen yet. And so there are different views about how that will unfold. And some people believe that it did happen already. I don't personally believe that. I believe it's a future event because the details around that prophecy, there's a lot that hasn't happened yet. And so often this falls into the category called a premillennial view of eschatology, of the end. And within that premillennial view, there are different views about when the Christians will be caught up to be with Jesus, or when the resurrection of the dead will happen. And that's something that every Christian believes will happen, is the resurrection of the dead. And it says when the resurrection happens, those who are alive at that point in time will be also caught up together with them. Many people believe that we will be taken away before the persecution begins. And some people believe that we'll be preserved on the earth through the persecution and through the wrath of God. The Bible talks about different seals and different trumpets and different bowl judgments in the book of Revelation. And it's a very complicated subject, but there's a view that says that before the end happens, there will be great persecution. And what we read there are saints on the earth who are overcome by the beast, and the beast is the man of sin, or the Antichrist. It talks about the 7-year period, how there will be halfway through there will be this event called the abomination of desolation. And 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 says that concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus and our gathering together to him, I don't want you to be soon shaken in mind or troubled as though we wrote to you saying the day had come. Paul says, no, the day won't come until the falling away and the son of perdition is revealed, who sits in the temple of God, declaring himself to be God. So that scripture leads me to believe that we're going to be here through persecution. We're going to be here up and until the point where the man of sin is revealed. Now, there's also some principles that says we're not appointed unto God's wrath as Christians. So in the Bible, there are Satan's judgments. There are the judgments in Revelation chapter 5. We can see that there are seals here. It says there is a first seal, a second seal, a third seal, fourth seal, fifth seal, and then sixth and a seventh seal. Sixth seal, I should say. And then some of these seals, the first, I should say, 5 seals, look to be the wrath of the beast, the wrath of Satan, the wrath of the dragon. But later on, when it gets to the other judgments, it seems to be the wrath of God being poured out on the earth. And so this view is called the post-tribulation pre-wrath view, that says that Christians will be gone before God's wrath comes, but will be here for the persecution. And so the Bible also says that everyone who desires to live a godly life will suffer persecution. So I believe that we need to prepare ourselves for persecution, but not just spiritually. Obviously, we don't want persecution, and we want to do everything we can to live peaceably among people. right? We want to be loving. We want to be peaceable people. We want to live quiet lives. We don't want to cause strife, but we need to prepare ourselves for tough times. And so I think that means both spiritually we need to be prepared, but practically as best we can. Practically, there are things we can do to rely less on centralized governments, and that's just a smart thing to do in general, to be less dependent on governments and corrupt people. But it doesn't mean don't be totally independent. We still need each other. We still need to be helping one another in community. We still need to be giving help and receiving help. So it's not about kind of trying to do everything on our own, but we need to prepare ourselves, both spiritually and physically, to be a community of believers that help one another. You know, you can start growing food and giving it to other people who need food. You can find out what your gifting is, and I mean, we all need to do it. We need to find out something that we're relatively good at, or become good at something, and contribute and start to form a community of believers. Because we won't always be able to buy and sell. The Bible tells us that. We won't. And we can hope that it won't happen in our generation, and it might not. But looking at what's going on, I don't think there's a very high chance of that happening. I think it's a very high chance that we are going to be in the generation that are going to see these things unfold. So let's be wise. Let's prepare. But these judgments, these seals, you can read about in Revelation chapter 5 and chapter 6. It says, the first seal, I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. These are the famous four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given him, and he went out to conquering and to conquer. And you know, it talked about in Revelation 13 how he was given authority to conquer the world over every tribe, every tongue, every nation. So I believe it's this white horse. It's the same person. And then second seal, when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and the people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. So people become very violent and are killing one another. Revelation 13 says, "He who has an ear, he who lives by the sword will die by the sword." As Christians, take heed. Don't do it. Be like Jesus. Don't go out and kill one another. Jesus was the Prince of Peace, and there's a way that we can live in peace. We don't want to become like the world. We don't want to become violent and go to war and kill one another. We want to bring the gospel. We want to bring peace. So that's the second seal. The third seal, I heard, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hands. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil or the wine." In today's terms, it's like saying you can't buy it's a day's wages for a loaf of bread, basically. So food will become scarce at some point. So what is wisdom? Let's keep food stores, try and keep food stores as best we can, just to be wise, so that in times of famine, and this isn't even just if this happens, this is just in general, it's good to have backup food. Not in fear, but just as a principle of wisdom. And back in the day, people would have had to do that. Back when people had to grow their own food, there are times where you get storms. There are times where you might have a really harsh winter or something, and you got to store food. These days, we're so dependent on the grocery store. Most people have no backup, whatever, and then when something happens, everyone rushes to the store and it gets cleaned out. We saw that in COVID with toilet paper and with other things. It's just wise to have a backup. We're probably the only generation in human history that doesn't understand that concept, and we should go back to the way people used to live. All right, so the fourth seal, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, with beasts of the earth. Lots of death. And the fifth seal John in his vision saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? And then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. So that's the fifth seal. Christians were killed. And this comes back to the point where Christians can't be killed if the Christians are all gone, right? Christians can't be killed if they're not on the earth. You know, the view that we're going to be raptured before any of the persecution happens doesn't make much sense if, you know, you can't kill someone who's not there. So, yes, there are Christians on the earth at the time where the beast is released and he wages war. And this is where it gets interesting. There's this sixth seal. It says, behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when it's shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it's rolled up, and every mountain and isle was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave, every free man, hid themselves in caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and the rocks, Fall on us, hide from us the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand. So this is the beginning of the wrath of God, right? The seal 6. And then it says, there were 4 angels standing in the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind would not blow on the earth. And so it kind of goes on. But basically, what we're seeing later on in verse 9, it says, there was a great multitude, which no one could number, of all the nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb of God, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out to the Lord, saying, Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing all of these people who were killed, and then we're seeing this scene of heaven, of all these believers in heaven, right? And if you go and read Matthew 24, Jesus also talks about the sun going dark, the moon turning blood red, the powers of heaven shake. And I believe Matthew 24, that event Jesus is talking about, is a synonymous event with Revelation chapter 6, where it talks about the same thing, the sun going dark, the black as sackcloth, the moon becoming like blood, the stars of heaven falling. It's this cosmic event that happens, and I think they're the same event. And Jesus also said that he will send his angels out to gather his elect from the 4 corners of the earth, and basically, I believe that's the event where the resurrection will happen. The dead in Christ will rise, and those who are alive and remain will be caught up into the air to be with him. And so that's just a possibility. I'm not saying that's absolutely the way things are going to play out, but that's my understanding of how things will play out. There are other ways these things can play out, but I think the overall theme here is let's prepare, let's get ready, let's seek God more, let's pray more, let's prepare practically more, and let's do the mission God called us to as well. Let's be diligent in preaching the gospel. Let's make more disciples. Let's devote our time to the Word of God in prayer and trying to understand these things better. And let's teach and train our children, those of us with kids. Let's teach and train them in the way they should go so that they won't depart from it. And let's try and raise up a generation of believers who understand the Word of God, but also have these 3 things which God says pleases him: wisdom, spiritual understanding, and knowledge of his will. And I think things will become clearer and clearer as things begin to move closer to these events. But it's a time of great deception, and so the enemy does want us distracted. God wants us in his word. What does the Bible say? The Bible says God's word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. It's a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. And there is a great time of great deception, which means people think one thing, but it's not true. And so if we're not grounded in God's word, we will be swept away by every wind and wave of doctrine that comes our way. So we need to get grounded and just hang out with other believers who are studying the word of God as well, and let each other sharpen each other, and not spend too much time on things that don't matter. It's okay to do some things, that are just for entertainment, but we need a right balance in life, and we need to make sure that we're not neglecting our most important relationship, which is God. So thanks for listening. If you got this far in the video, get into the Word of God. Don't be afraid of reading the book of Revelation. Yes, there are many things in this book that are difficult to understand. There are many things in the New Testament. Even Peter said some of Paul's writings are hard to understand, but that doesn't negate our responsibility to try to understand. Even in Revelation 1, I'll read it. It says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, this was from him, which God gave him to show his servants things which must take place shortly. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, to all things that he saw. Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. Thanks.